Is this recording? Okay. Well, if it is, I mean, I guess here we go. So this is my first time doing this kind of thing. This is a tier list on the gotcha game, Bleach. I can't even speak. Bleach Brave Souls. I've become very acquainted with this game in the last 2 years, I believe now. I've been building my account quite enough to the point where I think I have enough knowledge to educate the minority of this community, the newbies. So I decided to make this tier list. This is like a mix of uh, DPS, which if you don't know what that means, damage per second tier list, right? So this is like the strongest characters in the game that I think you should be summoning for when you first start. These characters are going to help you out a lot, clear through a lot of the harder content as early as possible. So, and this is all subjective, by the way. It's just my opinion. I'm going to do some. I'm going to go into in depth on most of these characters the best way I can to explain why they're good and how can they benefit all types of players. So, I'd like to mention the honorable mentions first. 8th anniversary Ichigo. So, okay, you know what? I'm gonna speak for all of these as I go through them. So a lot of these characters are either a little too old now. Actually, you just came out. This Nelio came out like a year ago, I think now, just roughly. Same with Noel. Um, so these characters are either like lacking some kind of damage multiplier that sets them apart from a lot of the top tier units today. Um, and not just that, but um, they're also really old. These two units right here are both like 3 years old now, or 2 years. Sorry, I think this. Yeah, they're like 2 years old now, and so they're not very. They're not gonna live up. They're not living up to today's standards, right? So, but they're still decent characters to have if you're starting. They're fun. They're quick. They're just they get the job done, right? But they're not the best. So I'm gonna go from top to bottom, and I'm gonna start this tier list with Soifan. I think. Um, this character just came out recently. I believe she is the best power unit in the game due to her enemies defeated bonus skills. They're actually insane. She gets, I think, recharge per room and team party strong damage. And what makes this character insane is that she's not only insanely fast, but she gets constant damage multipliers by killing the enemies. A huge chance to inflict paralysis. And I know her killer is kind of bad, and she doesn't have guard break and all that. But she's a great team unit. Great team unit, honestly. She helped so much in Limit Breaker Quest. She makes human GQ look like it's nothing, even Nightmare. Um, she's insane, man. The only thing I'd give her would be like guard break or damage to paralyzed enemies, honestly, and maybe a second killer. But she's great overall. She's honestly just insane, actually insane. The guard break, her not having it really surprised me. How good she actually was without it. So this is another contender right here for the top one spot. He is arguably better DPS wise, I'd say, because she doesn't have damage to paralyze in her base kit. But where Mugetsu comes into play here is the fact that he has complete immunity. She doesn't have a lot of immunity. She only has like one immunity, which is paralysis, I think. But he has immunity to everything. Any ailment. He's got increased chance against hollows as well. Ailment chance, weaken on everything. I think that's his only element though, which is kind of a problem because Soifan does have weaken and paralysis, which is better. Two elements is always better than one, for sure. So, um, I mean, that's the only reason I put him below is just because of her team party skills. To be honest, if she wasn't like such valuable like support, she would not be that high up, honestly. But he's this Mugetsu right here. Great damage, very fast, very fun to play. Extremely good for melee hollow guild quest. Great in the hard content, in like carrying co-op lobbies, epic raids. He decimates them with ease. His damage is insane. He's always proccing against hollows, no matter the attribute. Despite that, this character's insane, man. I don't and with his soul trait, which is team party damage, he gets the buff to his entire team and to himself. And as a link, that goes crazy. That's a crazy link to have on a. That's a crazy soul trait to have on any character for a link. So I think you could interchange these characters. They're both great. You can take it how you will, but I think Soifan is like slightly better. Next is Okiara from the Future Society. Good. Okay, so good character. He's got weaken on all his attacks. He's a ranged Quincy killer. I probably shouldn't be using these terms without explaining them. So his attacks are like ranged attacks, which are always great. Weaken on everything. Like I said, the third strong attack that he has is a chargeable strong attack 3. So that's good for clearing out rooms. He's got a beam, strong attack 1, which is like a straightforward like. Think of it like a straightforward like pistol shot that just goes and has a pretty decent AOE, right? And he also has a lunge, strong attack 2. And he's also our best ranged Quincy killer for Guild Quest. So that's something to note. He has two abilities, I think, for his soul trait, 2 skills, which is always good to have 2, strong attack and then recharge. I don't put him above these guys though, because his killer is a good. It's not a bad PVE killer. It's good. It's a bit niche though, not as great, and his damage isn't as crazy as these guys either, unfortunately. So, but he's great though. Honestly, really cool character, but he's just not on par with these guys because of his skills. Let me actually dive into bro a little bit before I start yapping. Yeah. So no immunity as well, just regular immunity, which kind of holds him back as well. I wish he had double killer. I wish a lot of characters did, but he's still great regardless of that. He's pretty fast, and he has the element chance against the Quincy's. He's great, solid character overall. His killer could be better, but his damage won't match these guys. So next is Masaki, who back real quick. I don't think she's above Okiara for the sake of having the Espada killer. Although her multipliers are like, you know what? She's probably just higher actually. Let me rephrase that real quick. She's got paralysis. Yes, everything. Yes. Raj SA2 is kind of iffy. That's why I put her. Like below Okiara at first. But insane multipliers, damage to paralyze, power attribute Quincy damage, which is great. To the status of with an element. So it's got with frenzy 2, and then the increased chance of elements to around car. And then SP boost on top of her soul trait of SP boost 40%. So she's getting an 120% SP boost when she procs. And that's against Arankars, so it kind of covers the PvE aspect of Espada being like a limited. It covers like the whole like PvE killer problem because her killer is Espada. So having the Arankar ailment increased chance is better for her. Is good for her. So she doesn't have to worry about being like almost. Oh, sorry about that. Almost useless in PvE content. Anyway, not much to say about her. She's great. I underestimated the fuck out of her. I think that's just my bias because I didn't get to pull for her. I didn't summon. I mean, I summoned for her, but I didn't get her. Anyway, Rukia. Um, this character, she's great. She has recharge per room. The only, no, not the only actually. Like, she was the first power character to have that throughout every lobby, so she was pretty good for co-op because you can just recharge your skills every room. Um, her SA2 is a medic attack though, which kind of holds her back. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, her SA2 is a medic attack, which doesn't even inflict freeze. So that kind of ruins it. And only one element too, which is freeze, which isn't the best element either. But she does have the increased chance against technique attribute enemies, which is great. That's always good to have instead of it being like limited. Um, she's got decent damage overall, and she's got rampage as well. One of the only characters with rampage in the power attribute category. So she racks up damage over time. So she's great for stuff like the hard, like she's great for like the co-op content and stuff like that in PVE. But she's a bit slow. Not a lot of mobility on her kit, if you couldn't already tell. And what else? Her second strong attack doesn't work in GQ, so she's not gonna proc freeze a lot. It's like a lot of resetting to actually like proc freeze on the enemies. Um, and yeah, that's why I put her below all of them because that SA2 just sucks, and having two strong attacks in your kit really just holds you back. And her damage is a bit inferior because weaken is just a better ability, or weaken is just a better element in my opinion. Anyway, I guess we're already done with the power attribute. This is the top 5, by the way. Oh, I forgot to mention this ahead of time. This is a top 5 character of every attribute. I'm not doing a top 10. I feel like I'd take too much more time, and I'm just starting with this, so I want to be a bit easy on myself. Here we have the best character in the game, not only for his attribute, not only for his attribute, but for his. I can't see my thing. Oh. Not only for his attribute, but for in like in general, this entire game. My guy, they were glazing Grammy when they gave this man his kills. Look at this. So you got Quincy strong attack damage, Quincy damage to status affected enemies, uh, Frenzy 3 on top of that, and increased the chance against hollows and SP boost. My guy, like you, bro, like, and with paralysis and drain, which is a broken combo by the way, broken element combo. Dude, he just smacks like literally everything. Like his kit is perfect damn near. He's got the Vortex SA2, which is actually a beam into a Vortex. And then he has a beam. I think this is a regular beam on his first strong attack. Um, and then he has this as his soul trait, which is great. So he just has more damage multipliers on his overall kit. This man is insane. No mobility, but it doesn't even matter because you can auto with him and he will just walk through everything. And he also has an EX boost. By the way, I forgot to mention that. I forgot to mention that for Soifon too. She also has an EX boost, which is why I put her above Ichigo. But we're not talking about that anymore. So he has an EX buff that buffs his SP temporarily for like 10 seconds, I believe. So you can go even higher with your damage, as if he didn't already like have insane damage multipliers as it was. This guy's crazy. They were glazing this man when they made him. I don't get why. Uh, the immunity thing as well kind of makes me upset because of the other anniversary character in this banner, but I'll go over that when I get to his attribute. Needless to say, this guy just is insane. Insane damage, insane elements. That's pretty much it. He's in the EX skill, it just makes it worse. So, Gambietta is next. This character surprised me actually, low-key. I underestimated her because I didn't have her for Limit Breaker Quest, and that was like where it truly like showed me. Just kind of that artwork is kind of special. Anyway, so she's very fast, extremely fast. She got Frenzy 2, increased chance to a run card, Lacerate and Paralysis, which is insane. What else? She doesn't have anything like crazy like damage to weaken not damage to paralyzed or lacerated enemies, which kind of sucks. But she does have an SP boost. And she also has melee and killer effect buff, despite despite being despite being better in GQ, she has it outside of it, so that's nice. And Frenzy too in the base kit, which is cool. So she's great because her damage is pretty consistent. I'd say she's fast. Her damage is consistent. She's the best melee run card killer, beating Killgate even I think. And for a melee kit, it has quite the range to it. So it's pretty good. I'd say we hadn't had a good technique character for a while, so not much to say about her. She definitely is not competing with Grammy, never, but she's good. I'd say that this is a great character to have. Next is gonna be probably Ichibe. So the thing with this guy is arguably he's very arguable for where he is. So this character has a gauge mechanic. So how that works is you have to build up you have a meter at the bottom of the character to build up um to build up to build up the gauge meter with when you do that with your strong attacks and your normal attacks. And then you get like you just get like a say it. It's like hard to explain without visually seeing it. So anyway, start gauge is great. It's like a plus out of like 100%. So it's like 100% start gauge, right? Think of it like that. And you have start gauge plus 70, so you have 30% left to, until you reach your maximum, and then the gauge activates. So with gauge effects, he gets a SP buff of 50%. Um, recharge, so you're gonna get these skills back a lot. So he's like kind of like a glass cannon nuke kind of guy. So once you get that gauge going, he pops damage pretty fucking quickly. And he also has gauge rampage, so the more he gets kills in his rampage, he gets more damage. So you want to work quick while that gauge is up until you get it again. And yeah, he's kind of like a one. He's like a. He's not gonna get consistent damage. You have to build the gauge in order for him to actually do good. But other than, I mean, he's got like strong damage. Aside from that, I wouldn't. Mm, I wouldn't say he's like amazing because he only has Frenzy 1, as compared to like half of these other characters who are like rocking Frenzy 2 in their base kit. But he's solid. He's still solid to this day. The best melee Quincy killer right now, I think we have. Oh no. Or I think that goes to Ishin. Yeah, Ishin, which is a character I'll talk about later. But if he had 80% SP buff as well, on top of this, I think he would have been higher than Bambi, probably. But he doesn't. So, good character. Next is Rangiku. If she would. There we go. So, Rangiku. She's a ranged Arankar killer with Frenzy 2, Technique sorry for damage, great support ability. Uh, she's pretty quick. Havoc, SP boost 80%. She's got full stamina, increased strong attack damage at 40%. And then recharge. And then debilitator with lacerate, which is pretty awesome. She's solid, honestly. I think her only problem lies in her first strong attack, which is a pretty mid strong attack one. It's not it's not bad, but it's like it could be better. It doesn't have many hits to it. These two are great though. She also has freeze on her special, which is kind of weird, but I wouldn't think much of it. Um, she's honestly great. She also has a enemies defeated bonus, which I think she gets more damage off of it, like full stamina damage and strong attack damage. I believe she gets when she. So the way that works is you get kills, and you build up your enemies defeated meter, and once it hits the max, you just fly around the map with all your extra damage multipliers, and then yeah, you just crap on everything. When you have the buff, when you also have this as another multiplier, she goes pretty crazy, man. She's pretty good. She's fast and she just hits hard. So, only thing I'd fix is that strong attack 1. Maybe give her like damage to lacerate enemies. That's about it though. Might even put her higher than Ichibe, honestly. She seems to like prove. She seems to be a little better. I don't know. I can't say because Ichibe's kid is better. Yeah, I'll go with Ichibe. The last character for technique is going to be Quincy Ichigo. This pretty solid. Pretty solid. Pretty solid. He's very. I'll admit. Oh, I'll admit. Without long stride, he's pretty slow. He's kind of old now, but he's great because his multipliers and his skills for support is just amazing. So he gives himself and his team technique character strong attack damage, great support, and great for himself. He has technique strong attack recharge per room, which is also a nuts ability. So he's great for co-op quest and shit like that. It's great. He has almost the perfect kit. He's got a really cool SA2, full screen SA3, kind of bad SA1. It's like a very short, like arrow shot. Frenzy 2, and then increase status, only chance against speed attribute enemies with SP boost 80%. And he's got the best ailment combo of the game, being Weaken and Drain, in my opinion. You could argue like Lacerate and Weaken's better. But I think this is great. Because stealing the enemy's health is nice. So, his damage is great, honestly. His damage is actually so good. So, I mean, the only problem, like I said, he has is no long stride and no mobility, unfortunately. He doesn't have anything else, like no enemies defeated bonus, skill, or anything broken like that on top of him. But he's great. Solid character. I think great for like PvE co-op content. If you want to like carry lobbies or something like that, you can support your team pretty well. He's overall great. And he also fits the niche of the human range GQ guild quest. This is a very like tough week for some people, so if you don't have him, you probably need him for that week, honestly. Next is going to be Speed. This is the other 9th anniversary character, Zaraki Kenpachi. He is him. I don't know what else to tell you. This character is bonkers when it comes to damage. Now, it's not like his counterpart, Remy, right? But Berserker 100%. Bro. Like, Berserker 100%, Frenzy 3, and by the way, if you're new to this, Berserker is basically like strong attack damage. Like, you're just anything. So, he also has an EX buff that they're not showing here, which is like a short range, like a AoE kind of thing. He activates that, he gets an SP boost again off of that, and that just takes his damage to like skyrocketing levels. He's got the ailment chance against Arankars, a charge SA3, which shits damage, by the way. I will say though, they did shaft him a little bit, even though I can get why, because his damage is nuts. This character with Berserker 100 can just go into like almost anything and then just smack it up. Like I'm talking about any GQ. Honestly, if you probably have him 5/5, you might be able to do something with him. And well, granted, you have good side units, right? But this character's damage is insane. Poise and Poise Break. For some reason, I don't know why he has these. He didn't even like use these for Limit Breaker quest. So SP boost 80% on top of his EX SP boost as well. And then Debilitator +5. So you're gonna be doing a lot of damage to those lacerated and weakened enemies. I will say though, he does have his flaws in his first 2 strong attacks. His first strong attack is great. It's like I mean, it's not great, but it's like okay. Like it's like an okay like lunge of sorts. It's like a bit of like a dash attack. His SA2 is very clunky. It feels like it. If you hit forward with it, you don't. It looks bigger than it actually is. Honestly, like it's more so like a full screen kind of attack rather than like a huge hit in front of him. It's hard to explain. But they're both not the best strong attacks. He could have gotten better. I think this is his best attack. But and not only that, but he also only has weaken. Keep in mind this is an anniversary character. He should have gotten complete status immunity. Well, here's the problem I had with Granny. They gave him complete status immunity, and they gave him element reversal. That's right. They could have at least given Zaraki element reversal to make it fair, because weaken resistance just feels like an end of month character, in my opinion. It doesn't feel right. But you could argue that his damage is like too high for him to be like that good. But this character, he kind of needs it. I'm gonna be honest. Either way, he craps damage. Like he definitely has higher damage than Grevy, if I had to be honest. That Berserker 100 is just nuts. So this character is very fun to play. He's not a lot of mobility on him, sadly, but he's very fun to play. He's super strong. I think a lot of newbies would like him. Next is Yachiru, who unfortunately canonically had to be second place for Zaraki to unleash his true potential. Same goes for the anime, the manga, and the game. Anyway, so she's a bit old now, isn't she? Double soul trait, which is amazing already. Complete immunity. Weaken on everything. She has a weakening pool, SA3, which is like you throw out the attack and it summons a pool of an ailment. So it's like a pool, which is like a big circle AoE of like weaken. So if the enemies are falling into that, they are inflicted, which is great because you want that damage and you want the damage to the weakened enemies. She flies across the map, has the perfect kit, might I add. Almost perfect kit anyway. Very fast. SP 80%, Frenzy 2. What else? She has a very far beam SA1, a dash SA2, which like is almost like full screen. It feels like it hits so many enemies, and then the weakening pool. So on top of that, she has Rampage, so she just gets constant damage up as she kills any enemy. Two really good killers as well. Soul Bomb has the ability to one shot potentially. She's their best Soul Reaper and melee captain killer at the moment as well. She might even beat the ranged ones if you like have her 5/5. Honestly, I don't even know. So yeah, this character's just nuts. She just has constant damage. She flies across the map. Really good kit. Almost always inflicts weaken. Just crazy, man. She's not better than Zaraki though, because Berserker 100% is just absolutely wild. Next is going to be Kongdu, who is also a mid-month character, might I add, who's surprisingly very freaking good. What happened? Okay, there we go. So he's our other Gage character. What's Star Gage? I don't even speak on this man. So lunge barrier, I think SA2, full screen, a beam SA1, gauge effect. He's got a lot of recharge. He has increased ailment chance against power attribute enemies, which is good. That's something that a lot of other gauge characters don't have. Because without the gauge, these characters are kind of like bad. So you need to build it up somehow, right? But if you have this isn't going to work. This is going to work regardless of the meter you have built up on the gauge. So you have a chance to inflict freeze on enemies and get extra damage. Star Gauge, which is good. Gauge Rampage, so he gets damage as he goes. Berserker 50%, damage to frozen enemies, which is a good multiplier. Hollow Killer, which is a really good PvE killer as well. And yeah, I mean, Freeze is not the best element anyway, so that's kind of why he's here. It's not better than like Weaken on these guys. and his multiplier is him being a gauge character kind of just puts him down here, honestly. Like gauge characters aren't the best anyway. But anyway, moving on. Macy. This character was quite future proof. I'm not gonna lie. She came out quite a while ago, I'd say. She is our best ranged Squad Zero killer at the moment. She's very, very good for like her respective GQ. She has speed attribute recharge per room, which is great. She's good for co-op if you like that stuff. Good for offline content, so you get her strong attacks faster. She has a Vortex SA2 with weaken and paralysis on everything, which is awesome. Her SA1 sucks. A very fast SA3 that's strong. She has damage to paralyze and weaken, so you get 2 extra multipliers on your when you proc, which is awesome. Frenzy 2 SP boost as well, on top of damage to paralyze and weakened. Berserker 40%, debilitator, so your ailments last longer. And yeah, the only thing I could really think about giving her is some mobility and maybe like speeded character strong attack damage, but then that would make her too broken, I feel like. Her killers are really like okay. No affiliation killer is pretty solid PvE, but Squad Zero is like mid. But it's good for the respective guild quest, like I said. She's honestly great. Solid character overall, if I had to say so. I think she might even be better than Kangdu, I don't know. She's got all this damage multipliers, but her SA1 kind of holds her back a little bit. But yeah, she's really good. She was built to last for a while in her attribute anyway. So this last one is Senju Maru. So when I was making this list, I did not think I was gonna be putting what we call potion farmers or droplet farmers in this tier list. So these skills right here, all these power droplets, power link slot potions, super link slot potions, all this, these are like farming materials to transcend your characters essentially. And usually these characters are not like on the higher end of tier list. I mean, there's some exceptions, but they're not usually like high DPS units. But she was one of the best ones that actually are in the speed category because we don't have that many good speed characters anymore. I mean, minus these guys obviously, but what she has to offer though, she has damage to enemies with no element afflicted. That's 100% damage boost. She has special move damage on her special right here at the 30%. She gets hit by no elements, which is great. Immunity is always nice. Melee Hollow Killer, Frenzy 2. She also has Pierce Iron Skin, so she's gonna destroy the harder co-op for super potions. She's like the best speed farmer, I think, honestly, at the moment. Still don't have her yet either, but in terms of DPS, she's nowhere near any of these guys. But her DPS is solid enough to get her like above some of the older units like Okiura and Uryu and like Nelio, I think. Her DPS is high enough to get her to the top 5, and her utility with farming is great. So I think that puts her in that fifth slot. Next is Mind. So we have the old king of this game, the Quincy King, Yuhavaha. Oh man. This character is wow. I'll even start. He's a melee hollow no affiliation killer with the recharge per room, so he's great for co-op, great for Senkaimon, stuff like that. Complete immunity, Frenzy 2, Havoc, SP boost 80% with Debilitator. Basic shit, you feel me? But where he this may look like nothing, honestly, right? But he's got a Vortex SA2, a kind of a Vortex SA1, and then he has the enemies defeated bonus, which grants him the most broken of skills. I can't exactly point it out what it is. I don't know what. I think it gives him full stamina damage boost. It gives him a lot of multipliers, and that's where that comes into play for his actual like damage. Once he gets that going, he just runs through content with like fucking ease. He just rams everything, damn near. I think he gets a damage buff for killing enemies. I think it's like a rampage kind of thing. I forget, but he's insane. He's just insane and very fun to play as well. But his kit is great and it's very fast. And like I said, he gets bonus effects for killing enemies, so he's great. Okay, what could happen? Next is going to be Ishin, who I had mentioned earlier, I believe. Um, there he is. He's a melee Quincy killer with a rampage, increased chance of ailments against hard enemies, lacerate and burn and everything, which is pretty cool. He also has SP boost as his soul trait, I believe. Let me see. No, it doesn't even show it. Anyway, so he has an 120% SP buff, I think. So he's got a Vortex SA2, which is kind of like 8th Anniversary Ichigo's Vortex. It's a very slow Vortex. He himself is also pretty slow, but he's solid. Honestly, he's got extremely high damage. He gathers damage with Rampage pretty quickly. A pretty okay PVE killer. It's great for Guild Quest. Very good for Guild Quest. He's very strong for Guild Quest. But I have to put him lower than Yuha because Yuha enemies defeated bonus thing is just better overall. And he's faster and his kit is low key better, so definitely Ishi's not coming close. But this is a very strong character if you get your hands on him. You got all these damage, all this kind of damage build up. I he's also the best melee Quincy killer right now. Sorry, that wasn't Ichibe. This guy is right here. Oh, and his soul bomb procs weaken and lacerate, so that's something to note as well. So yeah, great character. Wish the killer was a bit better. Maybe his second killer would benefit from that. Then yeah, that's that. So next is Yumichika, who honestly surprised the crap out of me. I say that about a few of these characters, but before I was actually making this, I went through a few different characters before I actually settled. So, despite having only a Squad Zero killer and being strictly for that almost, he has a 120% speed 120% spiritual pressure boost. Ailment spiritual pressure boost because his soul trait is 40%. On top of his 80% in his kit. His damage is nuts. Like, especially in Guild Quest, his damage is freaking nuts. Frenzy 3. Frenzy 3 in Guild Quest with 50% killer effect and 30% melee damage. And increased damage chance to hard attribute enemies. So he can be good outside of PvE because of that. He can inflict not only on those Squad Zero members, but also outside of it. And this is still an 120% SP boost outside of Guild Quest, right? So that's insane. Only problem is not a lot of immunity. The killer is still kind of bad. He has a barrage SA2, so that kind of sucks for outside content. So he's a bit on the lower end, but his damage is just so high that I have to put him up there because he deserves it. I think, yeah. So next is gonna be White. Oh man, I remember when this character first dropped. Feels like forever ago now. So, crazy skills. He has mind attribute special damage, which is interesting. He's a melee Soul Reaper, no affiliation killer unit with lacerate and drain on everything. His kit is very, very melee, actually. I know that's what it is, but um, he's got a bit of a vortex dash SA1 thing going on there. He has a dash SA2, and then a weird like pull-in effect on his SA3. Like he pulls you in and explodes. It's not a full screen, but it gathers enemies pretty quickly. He's got damage, drain, and lacerated, which is great. And he also has the increased chance of elements against hard attribute enemies and SP boost. So his multipliers are kind of nice, right? The problem is, I think with him, I think his only problem really is the fact that he only has debilitator plus 2 seconds. So in some cases, it's plus 5, right? On the average unit, but his is only plus 2. So these ailments are not going to be around for super long enough for him to get out a ton of damage. So that kind of sucks. I think that's the only real issue, to be honest. The fact that his debilitator is not very long. Um, and compared to the newer units, he doesn't have stuff like Rampage or enemies defeated bonus. He's already getting outdated by all these new skills. Kind of hurts. And then, yeah, that's pretty much that. I wish they also would have given him mind attribute character damage over speed. I guess that'd be too broken, right? Anyway, the last character, this might be a hot take, but I'm putting Halloween Nitty on there. This is probably gonna be a hot take, honestly. Some of you might not agree with me on this. Some of you might say Asnot is better, even Ikaku, or somebody like Beninis, but I can't do that. No, I might be a bit biased here. There she is. But she's a gauge character again. Love her artwork, by the way. Weaken and burn on everything. Ranged Hollow Killer. A great gauge, only Frenzy 1. She has Gauge Rampage. She has Start Gauge. So when she gets that gauge going and she murders like all the enemies, she can nuke pretty hard, man. That's all I'm saying. Like she's quite fast, I believe. Not that fast, but she's pretty decently fast. She has a Vortex SA1. Her SA2 and 3 are kind of like, I don't know what you would compare this SA2 as, honestly. Let me see. It's kind of just like a ranged attack. Like a ranged not advancing forward, like a ranged forward attack. Um anyway, she hits her skills, I think, are better than anybody else's with the gauge rampage. She has weaken and burn, so she inflicts that, and she has 2 multipliers going for her. The thing is, I really wish she could have gotten damage to burn or weaken at least, if anything. But if you keep her gauge up, she's quite insane, man. Like her damage just goes crazy. She's, she also doesn't have the immunity as well, by the way, for her own GQ, which kind of sucks. I don't know why they didn't give her freeze immunity. But other than that, she's just great, bro. Like, I'll be biased if you want, but her damage is too insane with gauge, over anybody else. I'm putting her there. This is where it gets a bit complicated. So in the heart tier list, I'm putting these two up at the same time. So these 2 characters right here are honestly interchangeable, in my honest opinion. You can use whichever one you want for whatever content. They're both gonna smack it. So I'm gonna compare what one has and which one doesn't. They both have very similar soul traits to abilities. Tosh has 100% damage to frozen enemies, Soul Reaper damage to flipping enemies, so that's a 40% buff, which is insane. He also has Debilitator plus 5, Frenzy 2, and then increased chance against no affiliation and Quincy's with Long Stride and SP boost. And he also has an EX boost that boosts his SP, which is like a bit of it's like a little carousel ice type attack that just spins and it locks the enemies in and freezes them, and it gives them an SP buff. So, uh, they're very similar. A Vortex SA2, well, not really. It's like a pull in pushback. It's like a Vortex pushback SA2, a Beam SA1, and then a full screen SA3. So, as for Ichigo, what he has to offer is the same soul trait of a charge up SA3, which is strong as hell. The best ailment combo of the game, arguably. Damage to weaken and lacerated. So he has got two ailments to get damage buffs off of instead of just one. Increased chance against Quincy's and Soul Reapers. He's got the better killers in my opinion because the Soul Reapers are more common, and they both have Quincy's are Quincy. They're the same shit. So, and he has his ping boost, and his kit is low key better. I'm not gonna lie. He's got the Beam SA1, a Lunge SA2, and then the Charge SA3. His kit is low key just better. But if I had to pick one, I think Tosh is like slightly above, just by a little bit because of the extra buff to his SP with the EX skill. I think that's the only reason why he's above. But they're very close in power, if I had to be honest. Like, if you had either one, you're lucky. Um, so next, though, it'll be Kilgay. This character, he's a solid like filler pick for Limit Breaker Quest. If you don't have like the required stuff meant for like Limit Breaker Quest, he's pretty good for it. So, who was the best melee run card killer is pretty solid now still. He's got the perfect kit. He's got the full screen SA3 of Vortex, and then the perfect beam. This is the perfect kit right here. This is like legit what every character in the game wants. He's got Rampage with SP boost, damage to drain enemies, per attribute strong attack recharge, so he gets his strong attacks back every single time he leaves the co-op room. Full stamina. Only has debilitator plus 2, which is a bit sad. I wish they gave him at least plus 5, because he only has one ailment. But with Frenzy 2, you're going to be hitting a lot, so you might proc pretty often. So, that's something. He's just very strong overall. Just very, very strong. But these characters just have mobility, and they also have another element to complement their damage. So he's not going to be that high up there. But he's very solid, very strong to this day still. Next is Ruka. So she also has the enemies defeated bonus. Hers is not as good as Yuhabaha, granted, or some other characters, but she's got Drain on everything. Long stride, so she flies. SP boost, Frenzy 2, fire resistance, weirdly. She's a ranged hollow killer with a pretty decent kit. She's got a beam kind of SA1 with donuts, a vortex, strong attack 2 with pushback, kind of similar to Toshiro, then a full screen. But with her damage multipliers that she gets from enemies defeated bonus, she just flies across the map and then like craps on like everything in the room. So that's pretty solid. She just flies and she gets her damage buff from defeating enemies. And when you inflict drain, Edge just goes crazy. It goes actually crazy. She's solid overall, I'd say. Her soul trait is pretty good too. Damage inflicted at full stamina 30%. That's a good link. And just in general. And yeah, and there's not much to say about her. She has the same issue that Kilgay has, or she doesn't have Rampage, but so that kind of puts her below. She doesn't have Rampage. So these last three characters, I'm gonna put Bruno up here. This is Bruno. These last few characters don't have what these two have, which is mobility and also what is it? Not only do they not have mobility, they don't have an extra ailment and stuff to complement them. So lastly is Bruno to end off this tier list. This is the other Gauge character who has Star Gauge, but this time he has immunity. Unlike anybody else, he has full immunity, which is great. He's melee Espada and melee Hollow, pretty okay. No increased chance against any enemies like some of the other Gauge characters, but his Gauge is pretty freaking good. He's got SP buff, recharge, Berserker 40%, Debilitator +5, so when he inflicts weaken, it's there for quite a while. Havoc, even though his kit is pretty melee based. The SA1's like a bit of a pull-in explosion attack. This SA2 is like a it's like a it's a pretty small AoE, and then the full screen. SA3, weaken on everything. He's pretty fast, I think, actually, surprisingly. He's pretty fast. And yeah. But at the end of the day, he's still a Gauge character. So his damage takes time to rack up, unlike these guys who can just get out there and dish out damage. But yeah. That's pretty much it for Bruno. He's great for his respective guild quest weeks. And yeah. So I'm already 52 minutes in this video. Holy crap. I feel like I was just yapping about nothing almost. I feel like I spent the most time talking about this top row right here, and then I just fell off. So, to end this off, I'm going to just say that this is completely subjective. This is all my opinion. This is what I think are the best damage per second units in the entire game. The top 5 anyway. For new players that I think you should be summoning for these characters whenever. Well, I think in general, the main focus that starting players should be summoning for are the farming units. Any like uh, item farming unit like potions, super potions, and droplets, I think you should be going for them first. But if you want to just play and have cool characters and have high damage and just ease through the harder content, these are all the characters you want for those respective uh, co-op, Senkaimon, Guild Quest, Brave Battles, even if you wanted, and overall just that pretty much. They also work well in Arena. These units are just their damage is crazy. Their skills for their support is crazy. Everything about them is just great, and they fit their they fit well. They just play a big role in like almost every single bit of content in this game. And as for the honorable mentions, I don't know if I mentioned enough, but these characters almost made the top 5s over some of these characters, but their DPS was just lacking. They were missing a certain skill and stuff, in my honest opinion, that just didn't bring them to the top 5. And that's pretty much it, man. I mean, I hope to do more videos like this in the future, honestly. I think that'd be very fun. But I'm going to end this now. I had fun doing this. Hope y'all if y'all got any questions or maybe disagreements, anything like that, just feel free to comment, man. Goodbye.